Today we've got the LUT6S from Feelworld. This is a high bright 2600 nit 6-inch touchscreen monitor with full assist features, SDI compatibility, all for under $400. So this is a great monitor to have as an option, but we're going to take it out of the box today. We'll see where they cut corners in terms of build quality, image quality. We'll take a look at the operating system, some of the key features built into here, and we'll try to decide if this is going to be a good choice to save some money to get all of that, or if you are better off saving a little bit more money and getting one of the more expensive options in the market. So let's get into it. Hey, I'm Scott and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe for more no-nonsense tutorials and reviews. So like I said, this is a 2600 nit monitor. The only monitor I've seen brighter than this is the OCT7 or G7, which has 3000 nits. And there's also, of course, the Portkeys BM5, which has 2200 nits. So these are all kind of in the same ballpark. And they each have their own differences. Of course, the BM5 is made of pure metal, but it also has some fans built in. It's only 5 inches or 5.5 inches compared to the 6 inches here, or the 7 inches of the T7, which also does not have fans, but it's made of a bit more plastic, high quality plastic for sure. But there's differences in the operating systems and everything. I have reviews of both of those monitors if you want to check them out, but today we're going to be taking a look at this, and I'm going to be drawing some comparisons to those two monitors because they are probably the most comparable to this one right here. Again, the LUT6S, S is for SDI. There is also an HDMI only version. This one comes in at just under $400. You can save $100 more by going with the HDMI only version. And the HDMI input here should take up to 4K 30 frames per second. I believe the SDI input is a little bit lower than that. But it does take a 4K signal. And before we even get into this, I've always had the question, if you are recording in something higher than that, 4K 60, 4K 120, for example, check your camera's HDMI output settings because you should be able to output a lower frame rate or lower resolution to the monitor, even if you're recording in those higher frame rates. So that shouldn't be a problem. I always get that question, just wanted to address it up front. Anyway, as you can see on the cover here, you've got waveforms, RGB waveforms and histogram. You've got vector scopes, you've got 3D LUTs. It's pretty full packed, and you've also got Feelworld's new user interface, which is actually one of the better user interfaces. So we'll take a look at that as well. For now, let's just get it out of the box. We'll jump through that. We'll take a look at the build quality and all the other features as we go along. So you've got, of course, your paperwork, which is usual. Got the monitor right on top here in some plastic. Let's take it out of there. Now we will get more into the physical design of this in just a minute. And then you've got this tilt arm, which I believe is actually a tilt swivel arm. It should twist as well as twisting this way. And then you've got an HDMI cable, and I always forget if these are micro or mini or whatever, but you've got the, let's say mini for now, HDMI on one side. And then you've actually got an adapter to go to the, I guess you could call it micro. If I got these mixed up, then I'm sorry, but you've got like an adapter on here. So one cable, but it should work with two different types of HDMI connections, but it's not full to full. And also, even though this is an SDI monitor, you don't get an SDI cable in here. And that's about it. You don't get a carry case or anything. And again, throwing back to the BM5, the Portkeys BM5, you do get a kind of semi-hard case with that, and it is nice. It's form-fitting, so it doesn't take up a lot of extra space, but it gives you a little bit of protection when you're traveling with it. This does not come with that. So there's one place where they cut a little bit of the cost. Again, checking out the monitor itself, it does feel like a little bit of a higher grade of plastic than I've seen with Feelworld in the past. It's still not quite at the level of the plastics in the OCT7, and of course the metal body of the BM5 is more solid, but this does feel nice. I am impressed and satisfied with how this feels. The only thing that would concern me is that the screw threads on these Feelworld monitors in the past have typically put a lot of stress on the plastic shell. Again, this is pretty much all touchscreen, including the menu, and it's very easy to use the touchscreen to navigate that menu as well, but you do have one single button on here. That's the power button, as well as touch, which means that you can turn the touch function on and off. If you don't want to accidentally touch it, you can usually just tap that and it will turn the touch screen off, which is nice. And then you have this clickable wheel on the side here. So if you want to navigate through the menu with physical controls, you got this wheel design. It's very simple, but actually I do think that this type of control works well enough. And again, their touchscreen functionality does work very well, and we'll take a look at that in a second. On the bottom, you've got your headphone jack, you've got power in, DC in, as well as DC out if you want to use a dummy battery to power your camera. Of course, none of this comes with the monitor. You've got your screw thread, and it does have these little indentations on the side for that anti-twist design. If you're using an anti-twist tilt and twist monitor mount on the bottom here, that'll have you covered. So if you try to twist it, it's not going to come loose from the actual mount itself. And then you have a slot for an SD card, which is nice. In the past, I think most of these Feelworld monitors have used USB, and I personally just prefer to use an SD card. Maybe everybody's different, but this is to load your LUTs on there and possibly maybe to update the firmware in the future. On the side, you've got your HDMI in, HDMI out, as well as SDI in and SDI out. I don't think, or I don't expect that this will cross convert the signal. So if you put an HDMI signal in, I don't expect it to send an SDI signal out, especially for this price. Not many monitors can do that. On the other side, you just have the single screw thread with, again, those indentations that will fit with this twist monitor mount. And then in the back, you've got a single battery slot for MPF series batteries. It would have been nice to see two, just because this is going to draw more power. I'm sure it says the power consumption is around 16 watts, which is pretty typical for this level of brightness. And there is also a fan built into here. It feels nice. And let's go ahead and get it powered on, see how the operating system works. I think it's pretty similar to the others that have this new menu system for Feelworld, but we'll check it out. Things like how the waveforms work before and after the LUT, for example. If it cross converts, we'll check out how the fan works, all that good stuff. Let's just go ahead and get into that. All right, so I've just got this plugged into the Sony a7 II. Power it up and see how long it takes to power on. Okay, there we go. Not too long. It takes probably about 5-10 seconds at the most to power on. Not bad at all. So again, the image that I'm looking at here is not that special, and I think it's overexposed because of the brightness. So we're gonna go ahead and dial that back for the purpose of this video. But to navigate through the menu and everything, you have a couple of physical motions that you can do on this touch screen. You can double tap to bring up the menu, tap again to exit out of it. You can swipe up from the bottom for your custom functions, and if you double tap these, you can customize them by going left and right within each of these blocks. And you can set those to, I believe, pretty much any of the custom functions built into here. Tap again to exit back out of that. On the screen, if you swipe up and left on the right side, it will adjust the volume. I'm going to put that back down at 0 for now. And if you swipe up and down on the left side, it'll adjust the backlight. So you can go from 0 to 101, I guess you could say percent increments. This is at 100% full 2600 nits, and it's very overexposed. So you probably can't see any of this right now. But if we pull it back down to 0, that is a much better exposure, I believe, on this overhead screen. We're going to go up a little bit. We'll move it to about, let's say right there. That's about 15. So that looks like it's exposed correctly on my overhead camera. So we'll go with that for the rest of this video. Otherwise, it looks like you've got the battery display on screen, and this is an actual battery icon with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little bars to indicate your battery life, which is, for a lot of people, they enjoy that better. I'm not sure if you can switch it over to voltage, but in a lot of monitors, it says voltage instead of an actual little icon, which it's more accurate, but less intuitive. So in this case, at least right now, that's what you got. So now jumping into the menu here, we've got these icons on the left, which represent the different sub-menus. So the first one are your exposure and focus assist features. So you got focus assist, of course. And the nice thing is that when you turn it on, the different customization options pop up, and when you turn it off, they're gone. So it's a simple menu, but it only becomes more complex when you need it. So it's easier to navigate through because of that. So you've got your typical options for focus assist for your zebras, monochrome false color. For false color, you've got 2 modes. When you exit out of the menu, the little scale pops up on the bottom. So this is your standard false color pretty much. And if we go into the second mode, you can see this is more of a targeted type of false color where you've got maybe your middle gray and one stop overexposed. For example, it's easier to look at, simpler to look at. Some monitors do have more custom modes like this for different color profiles from different cameras. For example, this only has one special mode, but at least it is more than just typical false color only. So it's nice to see a little bit of variety in the assist features they offer. The next option here with the little center marker icon are your markers, your 9-grid safety markers for where you want your action or your text to be. You've got your center marker, of course, marker matte. Let me go back into there, marker matte. And when you turn on your marker matte, you can also turn on how dark the outside is. Let me go into 0.35 to 1. You can see now with the marker matte alpha at 0, the outside of the safety marker, not the safety, the outside of the aspect markers is completely black. But when you turn that to 25%, 50%, 75%, little by little, it gets more transparent so you can see what's going on outside of your aspect ratio markers. So you do have options for that as well. In the next menu, you've got your scan mode, your aspect, video aspect, anamorphic mode. This does have anamorphic mode, auto mirror. So when you flip it over, it's going to automatically mirror the image. Sorry. Zoom, freeze, pixel to pixel, typical stuff like that. And then in the next menu, you've got your special assist features like waveforms, parades, vectors, histograms, things like that. So let's just take a quick look at these. You've got the parade option, which will turn on your RGB parade waveform, your YUV version, your Y version, or off. So that's your waveform only. It's called parade, but it's your waveform only. If you turn on all waves instead, you can see here that you've got all these options, your audio meters, histogram, RGB waveforms, and your vector scope. So that's all of those things. And then if we go back into the menu here and we look at your options for your parade, you can then change how you want that waveform to be displayed within the all waves option. One more thing that I want to check is that waveform, how it reacts to LUTs. So if you load a LUT into here, does that read the image before or after the LUT? So let's turn that on for now. Let's turn it on to the Y version just for clarity's sake, so it's simpler. And then when you go into your, it says RGB icon here, these are your options for, of course, your image calibration. You can adjust things like HDR, you can adjust your color temperature, your brightness, contrast, things like that. If you scroll down, you also have your hue and stuff. So if your image is a little bit off from what you think it should look like to match the back of your camera, you can adjust things in this menu right here. But this is also where you're going to load your LUTs. You can import them from the SD card here, and you can switch the LUT on or off here. We're going to turn it on for a second, and you can choose which LUT you have. I don't have this in a log format, so it looks weird, but you've got some built into here already. So we're just going to keep it on slog2, and I want to go ahead and switch that on and off, and you can check the waveform does react to the LUT. So the waveform here is going to be affected by the LUT. Just so you know, if you have a LUT loaded, that waveform is post LUT. What is nice here is that I've noticed they have LUT out. So you can actually turn the LUT on or off for the loop out. So that's kind of nice. It's something that you don't necessarily see in a lot of monitors. So it's good to be able to have control over that. Again, whether or not you use it, doesn't matter. Control is the nice thing to have here. Finally, you've got your other settings for things like the wheel. I guess at the moment that is set to adjust your backlight, the wheel on the top here. And then you've got your fan settings. So right now it is on auto. So I'm supposing that it only kicks in when it's hot at that setting, because even when I turned it to the full brightness before, I didn't hear the fan. But let's go ahead and see what else we've got. You've got completely off. It's nice to have that option to completely turn it off. You've got it on low, middle, and high. I've got to say, even on this high setting, I feel like it is going, but it is really quiet actually. I'm used to the fan on the BM5, which on even medium is very loud, and on high is really loud. This, even on high, I don't think it would be much of a problem, even fairly close to the mic. I can hear it, but it's not loud at all. That is very good news. So, of course, a high bright monitor is going to get a bit hot. So it's nice to know that either it doesn't have a fan, or you can at least turn it off when you want to. But even when it is on, it's not that big of a deal. So I think leaving it on auto is not going to be a bad choice. I will say, I know it's hard to really translate this on camera, but when you turn the brightness up all the way to the brightest, it's not as nice as, for example, the OCT7. The image on that looks really great, even at the highest brightness. It doesn't look different, I guess you could say. It just looks brighter. In this case, I feel like the image does change a little bit when you turn it to that brightest setting. It's not bad at all, but it doesn't look quite as nice at the brightest setting as the OCT7 does. So I apologize if this is a very unorganized review, but I wanted to just check a few key things with this again, just to check exactly what functions are built into that menu. I know already that Feelworld has a pretty good touchscreen interface. I wanted to see how the fan noise was. Of course, that's a concern on a high bright monitor. And I wanted to see how the build quality was, and it's not that bad. Again, the fan noise is very, very quiet, even on its highest setting, which is nice. So for a 6-inch high bright monitor, if you want to save money, I think that this is not a bad choice. If I had the money to spend a little bit more on the OC version, which is my favorite, I would still confidently buy that version instead, because it's just a little bit better made. There's a better operating system. It feels a little bit more professional, and the image does look a little bit better at the highest brightnesses. But if you wanted to save a couple $100 in the case of the SDI version, then I think that you will be satisfied with this monitor. It's not going to let you down in any significant way. It has a lot built into here. It has pretty much everything you would need in terms of the basics, and even then some more than other monitors. Again, if you want to save $100 more but get the same basic functionality, you can go for the HDMI only version. And again, in that case, it's about $300 versus a little over $400, depending if you get it on sale with the OC. I would personally still go with the OC, but again, this is another great choice for a different type of operating system if you prefer that. A touchscreen monitor if you prefer that. And there is also the LUT7 and LUT7S, which I believe is 2200 nits, but basically the same as this monitor in other ways. So you've got some options, and options are nice. And this is one of those. Hopefully this video could give you some idea of what you're getting with this option. And again, I have other reviews for lots of other monitors on this channel. If you want to check them out, be sure to head over to my page and look at the list of videos. I should have a playlist for monitor reviews in there as well. Otherwise, sorry for rambling. Thank you as always for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and see you next time.